Welcome to the Fleet Geeks podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoy the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Fleet Geeks podcast. I better just check. I've gone straight into it and haven't even checked that I've got the right blimming microphone working. Well, it is working, so that's a good start, isn't it? Hey, I hope you're listening and hoping that you're well. I'm interested in a subject matter which has been brought to my attention at the recent Highways Conference or National Highways Conference. So I've been to a few conferences as I record this last couple of days. And as many of you listeners will be aware, I've always been fascinated by culture and understanding how we influence culture and how we understanding how we influence people and their behavior and their attitude to work and those kinds of things. So the really important part of the work that I do at Flagship and certainly important part of the education piece that I do around Fleet Geeks as well. Now, one of the things I've spoken about before is no blame culture, for example. And recently at the Highways Conference, a big part of the specialist speakers and those kinds of things was this thing about a just culture. And I was a massive fanboy for Matthew Syed, who came along and did the keynote at the Highways Conference this week. And he talked about a just culture as well and some of the challenges around no blame, because ultimately, as he quite rightly said, reckless behavior by somebody should have a consequence, right? And no blame culture doesn't quite fit with that. Okay, but I do talk about no blame culture previously. I've spoken about that because it means having a no blame element enables people to come forward and to share their learnings and to enable learning. And that's why I'm talking about the just culture today. So just talk about having a just culture and not by just as in just enough, as in justice and having a just culture. So first of all, a bit about culture, I suppose. So those of you that will have listened to my podcast previously, you'll understand that culture is about influence and it's about the way things are done around here. And you'll speak to different people and they'll say culture is something different. But ultimately, I think when you've got an organization, whether that's a business or a charity or a team of some description, you've got an organization of people or a society of people who come together. The culture is those rules and behaviors that the people in that group and in that environment share. And those can be influenced by a great leader. Leaders are able to influence culture and they can influence the values of the group, the behaviors of the group. And those values and behaviors essentially come together to create what I call the culture, the environment in which people come together. So why is a just culture important? Well, I've got literally down here, I've just written an article, 5 key elements why a just culture is important. The first is that it encourages the reporting of errors. Okay, so where blame and punishment are prevalent in a culture, that will make people hesitant to report errors. Okay, and that's bad. That's bad for learning. Okay, so the key thing is a just culture will encourage reporting for errors. The second thing is it identifies system errors and system issues. Okay, so one of the things when errors occur, often people don't intentionally create errors. Normally it's down to the system or the process. Okay, and those of us that work in this industry in a fleet operation will understand that systems and process are super important. And when they fail, we need to understand that. And we can get indicators that there's a system failure earlier if people are happy and open to reporting any failures or near misses that might occur. And a just culture will support continuous improvement and learning. Okay, so by having people who are open to come forward, they know that they'll be managed and supported in a just way, in a just manner. That will enable continuous improvement and learning because the organization will benefit from the learning and the improvements that are made off the back of having that culture. The fourth one is it enhances trust, right? So if people feel that confident that they're going to be treated fairly in their concerns that they raise around the way things are going, the way things work, it helps them to communicate openly, collaborate effectively, and all of those things go on to build trust. Okay, so that's about people having justice and being treated fairly, increases trust, right? And then the fifth thing is it improves, get my words in, it improves resilience by addressing errors and failures in a constructive and proactive manner. This helps us improve resilience against future challenges. Okay, so those are 5 key reasons why a just culture is super important. So the next thing is, well, what is a just culture? Okay, and in this case, I've got 3 key principles of what a just culture are. Okay, so what is a just culture? So first of all, a culture is essentially the behaviors and values of a group of people when they come together. It's the environment they create. It's the way things are done around here. Okay, so that's the environment. Now, when we have a blame culture, that's what happens when a group of people get together, things go wrong, and they go, well, it's his fault and it's her fault, and they did this wrong and they did that wrong, and it wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for our customers, or it wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for our terrible manager or our terrible leader, or whatever it may be that we're going to blame for whatever goes wrong. So that's a blame culture, right? And then we have this thing called a no blame culture, which clearly, like I said, there's some challenges around that, because whilst it's good to have no blame in one sense, because we want to feel safe and secure that we're not going to get blamed when things go wrong, ultimately, if reckless behavior creates something to go wrong, or causes something to go wrong, when someone's been trained alternatively, they know better, and they behave in a reckless manner, for example. As an example, drink driving. Okay, so someone drink drives, which is a reckless behavior. Should they have no blame, or should they get punished?
Hello, it's Shani from Flagship Partners. We are really proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast. If you need expert advice or training for your fleet business, make Flagship Partners your first choice. We are really excited to announce the launch of our Transport Manager Academy. With expert development for fleet leaders, we offer fully accredited initial Transport Manager CPC training, CPC refresher, and operator license awareness training, as well as mentoring, support, and professional development beyond the qualification. Our vision is to develop elite fleet professionals.
So, in my opinion, they should get punished, and that's essentially a just culture where there is justice, where there is an investigation into what goes on, and there is a just activity or action off the back of whatever's occurred. So the 3 key principles of a just culture is 1, fairness. Okay, so people are treated fairly and consistently, regardless of their role or their position, and punitive actions. So when we have consequential actions against people, it will be for reckless behavior rather than honest mistakes. Okay, so we've got this element of investigating something to find out, is it an honest mistake or has there been reckless behavior? And I think that most reasonable people will agree that if there's an element of recklessness, then there should be a level of accountability. People should be held accountable, which leads me on to the second thing, which is accountability. People are held accountable for their actions and decisions, but within the context of the system in which they operate, within the process of how they operate. And this means recognizing errors when they're system related rather than human and behavioral and people related. Okay, so that's a key element, that we've got this accountability to the system rather than just the people. And then the third key principle is learning. So in a just culture, that encourages open communication, transparency, and ongoing learning and development. Okay, and that helps make sure that the root causes of errors, the absolute root cause, and implementing preventative measures are found. Okay, so that's the key element, the learning there. So how can you create a just culture in your business? Well, in this sense, I came up with 10 key ways in which you can create a just culture in your business, because that's the key thing, right? I've already established what it is and why it's important, Well, the key thing is for you is to have leadership commitment. So from a top level, the first thing is to make sure that you have a firm commitment to promote an just culture and to ensure that fairness and accountability are upheld, as I said previously. So making sure that you take care of those 3 areas. The second is to define the expectations. So define your expectations and values around accountability and reporting, and what your expectations are and how we're going to learn from errors. So that's the second one, defining the expectations. The third is provide training. Okay, so make sure your people understand what a just culture entails. Get them to listen to this podcast, for example. Provide training and education on how you want error reporting to take place, what the processes are, and how to carry out root cause analysis, as well as making sure that system factors and contributing errors and those kinds of things are all taken into account. Okay. The fourth is establishing reporting systems. So make sure that you have effective reporting systems that are user-friendly, that are confidential, and that they're easily accessible for people in your organization to get hold of. And the fifth is to make sure that you investigate incidents fairly. Okay, so make sure when incidents occur, the investigation is carried out without prejudice, and to ensure that all underlying causes and contributing factors are taken into account, and system issues are focused on, rather than necessarily looking to account and assign blame to people. Okay. The sixth is to improve your understanding of people behavior. Okay. So understanding the difference between human error, at-risk behavior, and reckless behavior. Okay. So human errors are often unintentional. Now, people will carry out at-risk behavior, okay, which is part of the training process. To make sure that people don't carry out at-risk behavior, we need to make sure that we start to eliminate that from our workplace. And that's where the gap comes in. Workers done against workers expected. We need to make sure that we tackle at-risk behavior. So when people do stuff that maybe doesn't follow the process, we do need to deal with those things as well. Reckless behavior is where people knowingly disregard guidance and safety best practice. Okay, so we need to make sure there's a consequence for that. And where at-risk behavior is like where people take shortcuts and those kinds of things, we need to make sure we work out where those are so that we can establish best practice and procedure and educate people accordingly. Okay, so that's the sixth area. The seventh is apply discipline in a fair and consistent manner. Okay, so making sure that we're fair on people, regardless of their role, regardless of who they are and their position within the business. We need to make sure that we're consistent in the way we apply discipline and proportionate to the severity of the behavior in the incident. Okay, the eighth is promoting learning and improvement, which is part of the continuous improvement progress. As a leader, we can help implement that by making sure that we're promoting learning and improvement, making sure that we see everything as a learning opportunity and we share that with our teams of people. Okay, encouraging open communication. So being open and honest with people, not trying to hide things, not trying to brush things under the carpet, but saying, look, we're going to create trust by being open and transparent, and making sure that when we communicate with people, that it's not just the words we use, but also the non-verbal communications. When someone comes to you, it's not particularly open when you just roll your eyes and go, oh, what now? For example, that doesn't help. Okay, so making sure that we're open in our communication. And the final 10th area is about celebrating success. Okay, so making sure we celebrate instances where people and teams demonstrate great practice, proactive reporting, and making sure that we have where people have come up with innovative solutions to correct system errors. Make sure we celebrate that success. Make sure we talk about that. Okay, so why is that important? Like I say, a just culture is really important. As part of the highways event, we were finding out the statistics. 5 people die needlessly every day on the UK roads. So how can we improve our systems? How can we improve our culture to make sure that we aren't part of that problem? Make sure that we're part of that solution and making sure we're sharing best practice. Anyway, that's my little piece on a just culture. I hope that's interesting for you. If you've got any thoughts or suggestions, please do drop them in the comments. And we're on like 200 episodes of Fleet Geeks, so please make sure you're subscribed and signed up. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for Flagship Partners. Make sure you're following me on all the relevant social media. Great chatting, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you on the next one.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.